Hey there, you, sitting there scrolling through YouTube, maybe feeling a little lost, a little stuck, or like the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders. Have you ever wondered what it takes to break free from that suffocating feeling of helplessness, to rediscover the fire inside you that's just waiting to roar back to life? What if I told you that one single moment, one choice, one story could change everything? Picture this, a young woman, barely holding it together, standing at the edge of a decision that could either shatter her or set her free. Why did she feel so powerless, and what was the secret she uncovered that turned her life upside down? Stick with me, because in this video, I'm going to take you on a journey, a raw, emotional, and inspiring story that's going to hit you right in the heart and leave you feeling unstoppable. This isn't just another video, it's a wake-up call, a spark to reignite your strength, and I promise you, by the end, you'll have the answer you came here for. So, let's dive in, because this story is about you, me, and the power we all have inside us to rise above. Let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever felt like life is just throwing one challenge after another at you, like you're stuck in a loop of stress, doubt, or maybe even failure? I get it. I've been there too. There's something so human about that feeling, isn't it? Like no matter how hard you try, you're running on a treadmill, getting nowhere. But here's the thing. You're not alone, and you're not as helpless as you might feel right now. That's why I made this video, because I know you're searching for something. Maybe it's motivation, maybe it's hope, or maybe it's just a story that reminds you who you really are. I'm talking directly to you, because I want you to feel like we're sitting down together, having a heart-to-heart. This story I'm about to share isn't just some random tale, it's a mirror for all of us, a chance to see ourselves in someone else's struggle and triumph. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around until the end, because there's a twist in this story that's going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about strength, resilience, and what it means to take control of your life. So, grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's go on this ride together. Let's set the scene. Imagine a small, rainy town in the Pacific Northwest, gray skies, damp streets, the kind of place where the weather seems to seep into your soul if you let it. This is where we meet Sarah, a 28-year-old single mom who's been fighting to keep her head above water. Sarah's not perfect, she's got scars, both the kind you can see and the kind you can't. She's working 2 jobs, barely making ends meet, and every night she lies awake wondering if she's failing her 5-year-old daughter, Lily. Sound familiar? Maybe you're not a single mom, but I bet you know what it's like to feel like you're carrying the weight of the world, like one wrong move could make everything come crashing down. Sarah's story is universal because it's about that moment when you feel like you've got nothing left to give, but then, something shifts. For Sarah, that shift started with a mysterious letter that arrived in her mailbox one rainy afternoon. It wasn't addressed to her, but it had her name on it, written in handwriting she didn't recognize. Inside was a single sentence that made her heart stop. You're stronger than you know, but you're running out of time. What did it mean? Who sent it? And why did it feel like her entire life was about to change? I'm not going to spoil it yet, but let me tell you, this letter is the key to unlocking a truth that Sarah never saw coming, and it's going to pull you in just as much as it pulled her. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should you care about Sarah's story? What's in it for you? Here's the deal. This isn't just about Sarah. It's about all of us, about the moments in life when we feel like we're drowning and the choices we make to fight back. This story is packed with themes that hit home: resilience, self-discovery, the courage to face your fears, and the power of hope even when everything feels hopeless. You're going to see Sarah wrestle with her doubts, confront her past, and uncover a strength she didn't know she had. And along the way, you're going to meet a few other key players like Jake, the quiet coffee shop owner who seems to know more than he's letting on, and Lily, Sarah's daughter, whose innocent questions might just hold the answers Sarah's been searching for. I'm keeping things vague on purpose because I don't want to give away the magic just yet, but trust me, every character in this story has a role to play, and every detail is building toward something big. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a world where every choice matters, and I'm betting you'll see pieces of yourself in Sarah's journey. Let's talk about why you need to keep watching. You came to this video for a reason, right? Maybe you typed in how to feel motivated or inspiring stories, or even how to overcome feeling helpless into that YouTube search bar. You're here because you're looking for something to light that spark inside you, something to remind you that you're capable of more than you think. I'm promising you right now, this story delivers. It's not just feel-good fluff, it's raw, it's real, and it's going to challenge you to think about your own life. Sarah's journey is going to take you through twists and turns, moments that'll make you laugh, moments that'll make you tear up, and moments that'll make you want to jump up and take action. And here's my master move to keep you hooked. At the end of this video, I'm going to share a personal secret, something I've never told anyone on this channel before, that ties directly to Sarah's story and will show you exactly how to tap into your own strength. But you've got to stick with me to get there. No skipping ahead, okay? This is a journey, and I'm with you every step of the way. Let's dial up the atmosphere a bit, because this story isn't just about what happens, it's about how it feels. Picture the sound of rain tapping against a window, the faint glow of a street lamp cutting through the fog, the way your heart races when you're holding a secret you don't fully understand. That's the vibe of Sarah's world. It's moody, it's intense, but it's also full of hope, like the first ray of sunlight breaking through a storm. The primary conflict here isn't just about Sarah versus the world, it's about Sarah versus herself. Can she overcome the voice in her head that tells her she's not enough? Can she unravel the mystery of that letter before it's too late? And what does running out of time even mean? These questions are going to keep you glued to the screen, because every answer leads to a new mystery. I'm crafting this story to pull you in emotionally, to make you root for Sarah, to make you feel her fear and her courage. And I'm betting that by the end of this introduction, you're already invested, already wondering what's going to happen next. Here's where I want to get personal with you again. I know life can be tough. Maybe you're dealing with a job you hate, a relationship that's falling apart, or just that nagging feeling that you're not living up to your potential. I see you, and I'm here to tell you that this story is for you. Sarah's not a superhero, she's just like us, flawed and human, but she's about to discover something that changes everything. And you're going to discover it with her. I'm not here to preach or lecture. I'm here to share a story that's going to lift you up and remind you that you've got what it takes to face whatever life throws at you. This video is long, 5,000 words of pure inspiration, but every second is worth it, because I'm building this experience to keep you engaged, to make you feel like you're part of something bigger. You're not just a viewer, you're part of this story, and I'm counting on you to see it through to the end. Can you do that for me? Can you trust me to deliver something that's going to make you feel alive again? Let's circle back to Sarah for a moment, because she's the heart of this story, and I want you to feel connected to her before we dive deeper. She's not your typical hero. She's got bags under her eyes from too many sleepless nights, a coffee stain on her favorite sweater, and a habit of second-guessing herself. But there's something about her, a quiet strength, a flicker of defiance, that makes you believe she's got more to offer than she realizes. When she opened that mysterious letter, something shifted inside her. It wasn't just the words on the page, it was the feeling that someone, somewhere, believed in her. Have you ever had a moment like that? A moment when someone saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself? That's what this story is about, finding that spark and letting it grow into a fire. But here's the catch, Sarah's not sure she's ready to face what comes next. The letter hinted at a truth about her past, something she's been running from for years. And as she stood in her tiny apartment, rain pounding outside, she realized that opening that letter was just the beginning. What was she about to uncover? And why did it feel like her whole world was hanging by a thread? Okay, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger, because I want you to be itching to keep watching. Sarah took a deep breath, tucked the letter into her pocket, and stepped out into the rain. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay still any longer. As she walked, the streets seemed to hum with a strange energy, like the town itself was holding its breath. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw him, Jake, the coffee shop guy, standing under a street lamp, watching her. He didn't wave, didn't call out, but the look in his eyes said everything. He knew something about that letter. And in that moment, Sarah's heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement, because she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. Something bigger was at play, something that could either save her or break her for good. What was Jake hiding? What did the letter mean? And would Sarah find the strength to face the truth before time ran out? Keep watching, my friend, because the answers are coming, and they're going to blow your mind. As Sarah stepped into the rain-soaked streets, her sneakers splashing through shallow puddles. The weight of that mysterious letter in her pocket felt heavier than it should. The words, "You're stronger than you know, but you're running out of time," echoed in her mind, looping like a song she couldn't shake. She didn't know why Jake was watching her from across the street, his silhouette barely visible through the fog, but the intensity of his gaze sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with the damp chill in the air. Was he involved in this somehow, or was he just a bystander caught in the wrong moment? Sarah's life had been a whirlwind of survival for so long that she'd stopped noticing the details around her, but now, every shadow, every sound, felt like a clue to a puzzle she didn't yet understand. She pulled her jacket tighter, her breath catching as she wondered if she was being watched by someone else, someone who knew more about that letter than she did. You're probably wondering the same thing I am. Why, Sarah? Why now? What had she done to pull her into this web of secrets? Let's rewind a bit, because to understand where Sarah's headed, we need to know where she's been, and trust me, her story is going to pull you in deeper, leaving you questioning who's pulling the strings and what they want from her. Stick with me, because this is where things start to get murky, and I promise, you're going to want to know what happens next. Sarah's life in this small, rain-drenched town hadn't always felt like a dead end, but the past year had tested her in ways she never imagined. She'd moved here 2 years ago, chasing a fresh start after a messy breakup with her ex, Tom, who'd left her and Lily high and dry when things got tough. Sarah didn't talk about Tom much, not to her co-workers at the diner, not to the other moms at Lily's preschool, not even to herself, but his absence lingered like a bruise that never quite healed. She'd thrown herself into work, picking up extra shifts at the diner and cleaning houses on weekends, all to keep a roof over Lily's head and food on the table. But the grind was relentless, and lately, Sarah had started to feel like she was losing pieces of herself. You know that feeling, don't you? When you're so busy surviving that you forget who you are. That's where Sarah was, and it's why that letter hit her so hard. It was like someone had reached into her soul and seen the part of her she'd buried. But here's where things get interesting. Sarah hadn't been entirely alone in this town. She'd made a few connections, people who seemed to drift in and out of her life like the tides. There was Jake, the coffee shop owner who always slipped an extra cookie into Lily's bag and asked Sarah how she was holding up with a sincerity that made her uncomfortable. Then there was Marla, the eccentric older woman who lived next door and had a habit of leaving cryptic notes on Sarah's doorstep, nothing as intense as the letter, but odd enough to make Sarah wonder. And let's not forget Ethan, the charming delivery driver who stopped by the diner a little too often, always lingering to chat with Sarah about nothing and everything. Were these people just part of the background of her life, or did one of them know something about that letter? You're probably starting to suspect someone already, but hold on, things aren't as simple as they seem. Let's dig into Sarah's recent activities, because the weeks leading up to that letter paint a picture of a woman on the edge, even if she didn't realize it herself. She'd been working double shifts at the diner, trying to save up for Lily's upcoming school fees, but the stress was taking its toll. She'd snapped at a customer last week, something she never did, and her boss had given her a warning that felt like a punch to the gut. At home, things weren't much better. Lily had been acting out, asking questions about her dad that Sarah didn't know how to answer, and the guilt of not being enough for her daughter was eating her alive. But there were stranger moments too, moments that Sarah had brushed off but now seemed to carry weight. Now, let's talk about the town itself, because it's more than just a backdrop, it's practically a character in this story, and it's got secrets of its own. This isn't some idyllic small town where everyone knows your name, it's the kind of place where people keep to themselves, where old grudges simmer beneath the surface and whispers about the past never quite die. Sarah had heard rumors when she first moved in, stories about a scandal years ago, something about a family that disappeared under mysterious circumstances. She'd never paid much attention. She had enough problems without chasing ghost stories. But lately, she'd noticed things that made her wonder if the town's history was creeping into her present. Marla, for instance, had a habit of talking about the old days with a knowing look, dropping hints about people who knew too much and paid the price. Was she just a lonely woman spinning tales, or did she know something about Sarah's letter? Then there was the diner, where regulars would sometimes fall silent when Sarah walked by, their eyes lingering a little too long. She'd told herself it was just her imagination, but now she wasn't so sure. Even Lily had started saying things that gave Sarah pause, like how she'd seen a shadow man outside their window at night, a story Sarah had dismissed as a child's overactive imagination. But what if Lily was seeing something real? What if someone was watching Sarah, waiting for the right moment to pull her into something she wasn't ready for? You're probably starting to feel the same unease Sarah did, that sense that the pieces are there but the picture's still out of focus. That's exactly where I want you, because this story thrives on uncertainty, and every step forward is going to make you question what you think you know. Let's circle back to that moment in the rain, because it's where the tension really starts to build, and I want you to feel it in your bones. Sarah's walking, her heart pounding, Jake's eyes on her from across the street. She's trying to make sense of the letter, but her mind's racing with possibilities. Was it a threat? A warning? A cry for help? She thinks about turning back, going home, locking the door, and pretending none of this is happening, but something stops her. Maybe it's the part of her that's tired of running, tired of feeling like life's punching bag. Or maybe it's the letter itself, those words that feel like they were written just for her. As she rounds a corner, the streetlights flicker, casting long shadows that seem to move on their own. She hears footsteps behind her, not close, but close enough to make her breath hitch. She doesn't dare turn around, not yet, because part of her is afraid of what she'll see. Is it Jake, following her to explain himself? Ethan, whose charm might be hiding something darker? Or someone else entirely, someone who's been watching her from the shadows all along? The town feels alive with secrets, and Sarah's starting to realize she's not just a bystander, she's at the center of something she can't yet name. You're hooked, aren't you? You want to know who's behind those footsteps, what Jake's hiding, why that letter showed up now. I'm not going to give you the answers just yet, but I promise, they're coming, and they're going to hit you like a freight train. Here's where I want to pull you in even closer, because this story isn't just about Sarah, it's about you. You're watching this video for a reason, maybe because you're searching for inspiration, maybe because you love a good mystery, or maybe because you're feeling a little helpless yourself. I see you, and I'm telling you, this story's going to give you what you're looking for. Sarah's journey is about finding strength in the darkest moments, about unraveling secrets that threaten to break you, and about discovering that you're never as alone as you think. But to get there, you've got to stick with me, because the layers of this mystery are just starting to peel back. Who sent that letter? What does Jake know? And why does it feel like Sarah's past is catching up with her in ways she never expected? The answers are out there, hidden in the rain and the shadows, and Sarah's about to take a step that will change everything. But just as she steels herself to confront the footsteps behind her, something catches her eye, a glint of metal in the gutter, half buried in the mud. It's small, unassuming, but as she bends down to pick it up, her blood runs cold. It's a keychain, identical to the one she found on her porch, the one with the tiny bird charm. Only this time, there's something scratched into the metal, her initials. How did it get here? Who left it for her? And what does it unlock? Keep watching, my friend, because Sarah's about to open a door she might not be ready for, and you're not going to want to miss what's on the other side. Sarah's fingers trembled as she clutched the keychain, its tiny bird charm glinting faintly under the flickering streetlight, her initials scratched into the metal like a whispered accusation. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the air felt heavier, thick with the kind of tension that makes your skin prickle. She straightened up, her heart hammering, and glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows, but the street was empty, or so it seemed. The footsteps she'd heard moments ago were gone, swallowed by the hum of the town, yet the unease gnawing at her stomach told her she wasn't alone. That keychain wasn't just a coincidence, it was a message, a breadcrumb in a trail she didn't yet understand. But as she slipped it into her pocket alongside the mysterious letter, Sarah felt a spark of determination flicker to life. She wasn't going to run from this, not anymore. You're feeling that same pull, aren't you? That need to know what's going on, to unravel the mystery alongside Sarah? I'm right there with you, and let me tell you, things are about to get even more complicated. Obstacles are piling up, secrets are surfacing, and Sarah's about to stumble into a web of betrayal that'll make you question everyone around her. Stick with me, because this story's taking a turn that's going to leave Rosin Arbuthnot, and you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Sarah's first instinct was to head home, to lock the door and check on Lily, but the keychain and the letter were burning a hole in her mind, demanding answers. She decided to start at the one place that felt safe, Jake's coffee shop. If he knew something about the letter, maybe he'd slip up, give her a clue. But as she pushed open the door, the bell jingling softly, she was hit with an unexpected obstacle. The shop was closed, the lights dim, the chairs stacked on tables. It was barely 8 p.m., far too early for Jake to shut down. Her stomach twisted. Jake was always open late, serving the night owls and insomniacs of this sleepy town. She knocked, her knuckles rapping against the glass, but no one answered. Peering through the window, she saw something that made her breath catch, a single chair knocked over in the corner, as if someone had left in a hurry. Was Jake avoiding her? Or had something or someone forced him to close up? The uncertainty gnawed at her, and as she turned to leave, she noticed a scrap of paper taped to the door, half soaked by the rain. It was a handwritten note, the ink smudged but legible, gone for a few days. Sorry for the inconvenience. No signature, no explanation. You know that feeling when your gut tells you something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That's where Sarah was, and it's where I want you right now, on edge, wondering if Jake's sudden absence is a coincidence or a sign that he's hiding something big. With the coffee shop a dead end, Sarah's mind raced for her next move. She pulled the letter from her pocket, rereading those haunting words, "You're stronger than you know, but you're running out of time." The keychain, now joined by its twin, felt like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. She thought about Marla, her eccentric neighbor who seemed to know everyone's business. Maybe she'd seen something, heard something. Sarah hurried to Marla's house, the rain picking up again, soaking her hair and clothes. But when she knocked, Marla opened the door only a crack, her eyes darting nervously. "You shouldn't be here, Sarah," she whispered, her voice low and urgent. "Some things are better left alone." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Marla, who was usually all gossip and tall tales, looked genuinely scared. "What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, but Marla shook her head, her lips tight. "You're digging up ghosts, girl. Stop before you regret it." Before Sarah could argue, Marla shut the door, the deadbolt clicking with a finality that felt like a slap. Ghosts. Regret. What was Marla talking about? Had she sent the letter, or was she warning Sarah about someone else? The rejection stung, but it also fueled her resolve. Someone didn't want her asking questions, and that only made her more determined to find the truth. You're feeling that fire too, right? That urge to keep going, to uncover what's being hidden? I'm telling you, this story's got layers, and every step Sarah takes is pulling us deeper into the mystery. As Sarah walked away from Marla's, her thoughts drifted to a secret from her past, something she'd buried so deep she barely let herself think about it. Years ago, before Lily, before Tom, Sarah had been tangled up in a situation she wasn't proud of, a brief, reckless fling with a man named Daniel, someone she met during a rough patch in her life. Daniel was older, charismatic, but dangerous in a way she didn't see until it was too late. He'd been involved in something shady, whispers of stolen money, debts unpaid, and when Sarah tried to cut ties, he'd left her with a chilling promise: "You'll never be free of me." She'd moved halfway across the country to escape him, but now, with the letter and the keychains, she couldn't help but wonder if Daniel had found her. Was this his way of toying with her, stirring up old fears? The thought made her skin crawl, but there was no proof, no trace of him in years. Still, the possibility lingered, a shadow in her mind. And then there was Ethan, the delivery driver who'd been so friendly lately, always showing up with a smile and a story. She'd caught him going through a stack of papers in the diner's back room once, claiming he was just curious. At the time, she'd laughed it off, but now it felt like a red flag. Was Ethan's charm a front? Could he be connected to Daniel, or to whoever sent that letter? You're starting to see the web Sarah's caught in, aren't you? Everyone's a suspect, and every clue raises more questions than answers. The biggest blow came when Sarah got home, soaked and exhausted, only to find another obstacle waiting. She reached into her pocket for the letter, wanting to study it again, but it was gone. Her heart sank as she retraced her steps in her mind. Had she dropped it in the rain? Left it at the coffee shop? Or had someone taken it, slipping it from her pocket when she wasn't paying attention? The loss felt like a betrayal, like the universe itself was conspiring to keep her in the dark. She still had the keychains, but without the letter, she felt unmoored, like a detective without a case file. She checked her apartment, half hoping she'd misplaced it, but found nothing. Instead, she noticed something else. A drawer in her kitchen, one she rarely opened, was slightly ajar. Inside, among old receipts and junk, was a photo she didn't remember keeping, a blurry shot of her and Daniel, taken years ago at a bar. Her blood ran cold. She'd thrown out every trace of him when she left that life behind, so how was this here? Had someone planted it? Was it Marla, sneaking in with her spare key? Ethan, who'd been at the diner just that morning? Or Jake, whose sudden disappearance now felt like a glaring clue? You're on the edge of your seat, I can feel it. You want to know who's behind this, what they want, why they're targeting Sarah. I'm keeping you there, because this story's about to twist again, and you're not going to see it coming. Sarah sat on her couch, the photo in one hand, the keychains in the other, her mind a storm of fear and defiance. She thought about Lily, sleeping soundly in the next room, and the promise she'd made to give her daughter a better life. That promise was what kept her going, what made her refuse to back down. But as she stared at the photo, a noise outside her window snapped her back to the present, a soft, deliberate tap, like a finger against glass. Her pulse raced. She stood, moving slowly, her eyes locked on the window. The curtains were drawn, but a shadow flickered against them, there and gone in an instant. Was it the shadow man Lily had talked about? Was it Daniel, finally making his move? Or was it someone closer, someone she trusted, betraying her in ways she couldn't yet fathom? She reached for the curtain, her hand trembling, ready to pull it back and face whatever was out there. But just as her fingers brushed the fabric, her phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with a text from an unknown number. Stop looking, or Lily pays the price. Sarah's world tilted, her breath catching as the threat sank in. Who was doing this? What did they want? And how far would they go to keep their secrets buried? Keep watching, my friend, because Sarah's about to make a choice that could change everything, and you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Sarah's hand froze inches from the curtain, the ominous text glowing on her phone screen like a warning carved in stone. Stop looking, or Lily pays the price. Her breath caught in her throat, the words slicing through her resolve as the shadow outside her window lingered in her mind, a fleeting ghost she couldn't confront. The rain had stopped, leaving an eerie silence that amplified every creak in her small apartment, every thud of her racing heart. She glanced toward Lily's room, the soft glow of a nightlight spilling under the door, and a fierce protectiveness surged within her. Whoever was behind this, whether it was Daniel from her past, Jake with his sudden disappearance, Ethan with his too-perfect smile, or someone she hadn't even considered, they'd crossed a line by threatening her daughter. But as Sarah gripped her phone, her mind reeling with fear and defiance, another layer of the mystery was about to unravel, one that would pull someone else into the web and make you question everything you thought you knew. You're right there with Sarah, aren't you? Feeling that mix of dread and determination, wondering who's pulling the strings and what they're after. I'm keeping you on the edge of your seat, because this story's about to weave in a secondary thread that complicates everything, raising the stakes and making every motive suspect. Stick with me, because the tension's only climbing, and you're not going to believe where this is headed. Sarah forced herself to step away from the window, her hands trembling as she set the phone down and picked up the photo of her and Daniel, the one that had mysteriously appeared in her kitchen drawer. The blurry image felt like a taunt, a reminder of a life she'd fought to leave behind, but it was the only clue she had left since the letter had vanished. She was about to tuck it away when a sharp knock at her door jolted her, the sound cutting through the quiet like a gunshot. Her first instinct was to ignore it after that text. Opening the door felt like inviting trouble, but the knocking grew insistent, almost desperate. Cautiously, she peered through the peephole and saw Marla, her neighbor, standing there, her face pale and her eyes wide with something that looked like fear. Sarah hesitated, remembering Marla's cryptic warning earlier that evening. You're digging up ghosts, girl. Stop before you regret it. But the older woman's frantic expression told Sarah this wasn't a social call. She opened the door, and Marla pushed inside without waiting for an invitation, clutching a crumpled piece of paper in her hand. They got to me too, Sarah, Marla whispered, her voice shaking as she thrust the paper toward her. It was a note, written in the same sharp, unfamiliar handwriting as Sarah's lost letter, and the words made Sarah's stomach lurch. You can't hide what you know. Time's almost up. Marla's hands shook as she spoke, her usual bravado replaced by a raw vulnerability that unnerved Sarah. I found it under my door an hour ago, Marla said, her eyes darting toward the window as if expecting to see someone lurking outside. I don't know what it means, but it's about you, Sarah. It's all about you. You're feeling the weight of this, right? Another note, another threat, pulling Marla into the same mystery that's consuming Sarah. But what does Marla know, and why is she suddenly so scared? The introduction of Marla's note was like a match struck in a dark room, illuminating new questions while casting deeper shadows. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to make sense of it. Had Marla been watching her, keeping secrets of her own? Or was she a victim, caught in the same trap? Marla's story didn't add up. She claimed she'd been home all evening, alone, but her coat was damp, as if she'd been out in the rain. And the way she avoided Sarah's eyes, fidgeting with the note, made Sarah wonder if Marla was telling the whole truth. The older woman rambled about the town's past, hinting at a long-ago scandal involving a local family who'd vanished after crossing the wrong people. Some folks never let go of a grudge, Marla said, her voice low. And some secrets are worth killing for. But when Sarah pressed for details, Marla clammed up, saying only that she'd seen things over the years and that Sarah's arrival in town had stirred something up. The vagueness frustrated Sarah, but it also planted a seed of doubt. Was Marla's note a genuine clue, or was she playing a role, distracting Sarah from the real truth? And how did it connect to the keychains, the photo of Daniel, or the threatening text about Lily? You're starting to see the puzzle pieces scatter, aren't you? Every new clue seems to contradict the last, and the more Sarah digs, the less certain she is about who she can trust. I'm betting you're questioning Marla's motives too, wondering if she's an ally or another piece of the trap closing around Sarah. As Sarah and Marla sat at the kitchen table, the photo of Daniel between them, a secondary storyline began to take shape, one that deepened the mystery and raised the stakes even higher. Marla's note wasn't the only surprise. She revealed something that hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. I knew your ex, Tom, Marla said, her voice barely above a whisper. He came through town a few months ago, asking about you. Sarah's blood ran cold. Tom, the man who'd abandoned her and Lily, hadn't been in touch in years, and she'd assumed he was long gone, living a new life somewhere far away. But Marla's words painted a different picture. Tom had been here, in this town, looking for her. He seemed off, Marla continued, her eyes flickering with unease. Kept asking if you'd been talking to anyone, if you'd mentioned anything about your past. I didn't tell him much, but he left me his number, said it was important. Marla slid a crumpled business card across the table, Tom's name scrawled on it alongside a phone number Sarah didn't recognize. The revelation was a bombshell, contradicting everything Sarah believed about Tom's absence. Had he sent the letter, the keychains, the threatening text? Was he working with Daniel, or was he after something else entirely? The idea of Tom re-entering her life, especially now, felt like a betrayal of the fragile stability she'd built for herself and Lily. You're feeling the stakes climb, I know you are. Sarah's not just fighting a mystery anymore, she's fighting her past, her fears, and the possibility that the people closest to her are hiding dangerous truths. The tension in the room was palpable as Sarah stared at the business card, her mind spiraling with possibilities. Marla's presence, once a comfort, now felt like a wild card. Why had she waited until now to mention Tom? And why was her note so similar to Sarah's, yet worded just differently enough to raise suspicion? Sarah's thoughts were interrupted by a faint noise outside, a low, metallic clank, like something being dropped in the alley behind her apartment. Marla froze, her eyes wide, and for a moment, the two women sat in silence, listening. Sarah's heart pounded as she remembered the shadow at her window, the threatening text, the keychain in the gutter. Was someone out there, watching them even now? She stood, moving toward the back door, but Marla grabbed her arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Don't, Marla hissed. You don't know who's out there, Sarah. You don't know what they're capable of. The warning only fueled Sarah's need to act, but before she could pull away, her phone buzzed again, another text from the unknown number. You were warned. Now it's too late. Sarah's breath hitched as she showed the message to Marla, whose face drained of color. But then Marla's expression shifted, a flicker of something, guilt, fear, calculation that Sarah couldn't quite read. We need to stick together, Marla said, her voice unsteady. Whoever's doing this, they're not playing games. But as Sarah nodded, a chilling thought took root. What if Marla wasn't a victim at all? What if she was part of this, luring Sarah deeper into a trap she couldn't escape? You're hooked, aren't you? You want to know who's sending these texts, what Tom's after, and whether Marla's a friend or a foe. I'm not giving you the answers yet, but I promise, they're coming. Sarah's about to make a move that could unravel everything or destroy it. Keep watching, because the next twist is going to leave you speechless. The air in Sarah's apartment felt suffocating, the weight of Marla's cryptic warning and the chilling text, "You were warned." Now it's too late, hanging like a storm cloud ready to break. Marla's eyes, flickering with that unreadable mix of fear and something else, lingered in Sarah's mind as she stood frozen, the business card with Tom's name burning a hole in her hand. The metallic clank from the alley outside still echoed in her ears, a reminder that someone or something was close, watching, waiting. Sarah's pulse raced, her thoughts spiraling into a dark abyss of paranoia. Was Marla part of this, manipulating her with that note and her talk of Tom? Was Tom himself orchestrating this nightmare, dragging her back into a past she'd fought so hard to escape? Or was it Daniel, the ghost of her reckless youth, finally making good on his promise that she'd never be free? The questions piled up, each one sharper than the last, but before Sarah could press Marla further, a new horror crashed into her world, one that made her realize the danger wasn't just a shadow, it was real, it was here, and it was coming for her. You're feeling that dread creeping in, aren't you? That sinking realization that Sarah's not just unraveling a mystery, she's fighting for her life. I'm diving deeper into the darkness now, pulling you along with Sarah as the stakes skyrocket and the fear becomes palpable. Stick with me, because this story's taking a turn that'll leave your heart pounding and your mind racing with questions. Sarah's first instinct was to check on Lily, the one anchor keeping her grounded amidst the chaos. She excused herself from Marla, who sat nervously at the kitchen table, and slipped into her daughter's room, expecting to find Lily curled up under her blankets, safe in the glow of her nightlight. But as Sarah pushed the door open, her breath caught in her throat. The bed was empty, the blankets tossed aside, and Lily was gone. Panic surged through Sarah like a tidal wave, her vision narrowing as she scanned the room, calling her daughter's name in a voice that cracked with desperation. The window was closed, the lock intact, but a small stuffed bunny, one of Lily's favorites, lay on the floor near the door, as if dropped in a hurry. Sarah's knees buckled, her mind screaming with possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. Had someone taken Lily? Was this what the text meant by too late? Or had Lily, scared by the noises outside or the tension in the apartment, wandered off? Sarah stumbled back to the kitchen, her voice trembling as she confronted Marla. "Lily's gone," she said, the words tasting like ash. Marla's face paled, but her reaction, a fleeting hesitation before she stood, muttering about checking the building, felt off, like a performance that didn't quite land. Sarah's paranoia flared. Had Marla distracted her on purpose, giving someone time to get to Lily? Or was she jumping to conclusions, her fear twisting every detail into a threat? You're right there with her. I know you are, feeling the gut-wrenching terror of a mother whose world is unraveling, questioning everyone and everything. This is where the story gets raw, where the danger stops being a whisper and becomes a scream. With Marla searching the hallway, Sarah grabbed her phone, her shaking fingers dialing 911, but before she could hit call, another text buzzed through from the unknown number: "Don't involve the police. You know what's at stake." The message was a knife to her heart, confirming her worst fear: Lily's disappearance wasn't random. Someone had her, someone who knew exactly how to break Sarah. Tears stung her eyes as she clutched the phone, her thoughts a chaotic swirl of guilt and rage. She'd been so focused on the letter, the keychains, the photo of Daniel, that she hadn't protected the one person who mattered most. Memories flooded her: Lily's laughter, her small hand in Sarah's, the way she'd asked about her dad just days ago, questions Sarah had dodged because they hurt too much. Now, those moments felt like warnings she'd ignored, signs that trouble was closing in. Her paranoia deepened as she thought about the people around her. Jake, who'd vanished from his coffee shop without explanation, had always been kind to Lily, slipping her extra cookies, but was that a mask for something darker? Ethan, with his easy charm and lingering glances, had been at the diner that morning, chatting with Lily about her drawings. Had he been scoping them out? And Marla, who'd inserted herself into this nightmare with her own mysterious note, was acting like an ally, but her nervous glances and vague warnings screamed deception. Even Tom, whose sudden reappearance via Marla's story felt like a ghost clawing out of the grave, couldn't be ruled out. Sarah's world was a house of mirrors, every reflection distorted, every ally a potential enemy. You're feeling that weight, aren't you? The way fear can twist your perception, make you doubt the people you thought you knew. I'm keeping you in that space, because Sarah's not just fighting for answers, she's fighting to hold herself together. Desperate for any clue, Sarah tore through her apartment, searching for anything that might point to where Lily was. She checked under Lily's bed, in her toy box, even inside the pillowcase, her hands shaking with every empty discovery. But as she rifled through a drawer in the living room, she found something that stopped her cold, a small, folded piece of paper, tucked beneath a stack of bills. It wasn't the original letter, she'd lost that in the rain, but the handwriting was identical, sharp and deliberate. The note read, "She's closer than you think, but you're looking in the wrong places." Sarah's breath hitched, her mind reeling. Was this about Lily? Or was it another taunt, another piece of the puzzle meant to keep her spinning in circles? The note's presence in her apartment was a violation, proof that someone had been here, moving through her space, planting clues like breadcrumbs in a twisted game. Her thoughts flashed to the photo of Daniel, the keychains with her initials, the texts that seemed to know her every move. Whoever was behind this wasn't just watching, they were inside her life, pulling strings she couldn't see. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She wasn't just in danger, she was being hunted. Her paranoia surged, painting every moment in a new, sinister light. Had the clank in the alley been a distraction? Was the shadow at her window a decoy, meant to keep her focused on the wrong threat? And what about Marla, who was still out in the hallway, supposedly searching for Lily? Sarah's gut twisted with a chilling thought. What if Marla hadn't found anything because she didn't want to? You're hooked, I can feel it, the urgency, the fear, the desperate need to know who's doing this and why. I'm not letting you off the hook yet, because this story's about to plunge even deeper into the dark. Sarah stuffed the new note into her pocket, her resolve hardening despite the fear clawing at her chest. She couldn't wait for Marla, couldn't trust anyone until she knew Lily was safe. She grabbed a flashlight and her keys, determined to search the alley herself, but as she reached for the door, Marla burst back in, her face ashen. "Sarah, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling as she held out a small object, a child's hair clip, one of Lily's, its pink plastic glinting in the dim light. "I found it in the stairwell," Marla said, but her eyes wouldn't meet Sarah's, and her hands fidgeted like she was hiding something. Sarah's heart sank, her mind racing with questions. The stairwell was inside the building. How had Lily's clip gotten there if she'd been taken? Was it planted, like the note, to throw Sarah off? Or had Lily dropped it, a desperate clue to her whereabouts? Marla's story felt flimsy, her nervous energy feeding Sarah's growing distrust. "You need to stay calm," Marla urged, but the words sounded hollow, like a script she didn't believe. Sarah's thoughts churned with new suspicions. Was Marla working with whoever took Lily, playing the concerned neighbor to keep Sarah close? Or was she another pawn, manipulated by the same faceless enemy? The note's words, "She's closer than you think," echoed in Sarah's mind, taunting her with the possibility that Lily was nearby, hidden in plain sight. But as Sarah stepped toward the door, flashlight in hand, ready to tear the building apart, a new sound stopped her dead, a low, deliberate creak from the ceiling above, like footsteps in the apartment upstairs. Her blood ran cold. That unit had been empty for months, its tenant long gone. So who was up there, moving in the dark? Was Lily there, trapped just out of reach? Or was it the person behind the texts, the notes, the threats, waiting for Sarah to make her next move? You're right on the edge with her, feeling the paranoia, the urgency, the terror of a truth that's still out of reach. Keep watching, my friend, because Sarah's about to face a choice that could lead her to Lily or straight into the jaws of a trap she can't escape. Sarah's grip tightened on the flashlight, the creak from the ceiling above her apartment sending a jolt of adrenaline through her veins, each sound a hammer strike against her fraying nerves. The note in her pocket, "She's closer than you think, but you're looking in the wrong places," felt like a cruel riddle, mocking her as she stood frozen, torn between rushing upstairs to confront whatever lurked in the supposedly empty apartment and staying to interrogate Marla, whose nervous fidgeting and vague answers were setting off every alarm in Sarah's head. Lily's absence was a gaping wound, the pink hair clip Marla had found in the stairwell a tormenting clue that suggested her daughter was near yet impossibly out of reach. The threatening texts, the keychains, the photo of Daniel, Marla's note, and now the footsteps above, it was all too much, a labyrinth of fear and deception closing in around her. Sarah's paranoia had morphed into a visceral certainty that she was being hunted, but as she steeled herself to climb the stairs, Marla's voice cut through the silence, low and trembling with an urgency that stopped Sarah cold. "There's something you need to know before you go up there," Marla said, her eyes darting to the ceiling as if the answer to everything was waiting in the shadows above. What Marla revealed next wasn't just a twist, it was a seismic shift that turned Sarah's world upside down, making you question every clue, every motive, and every moment you thought you understood. "You're right there with her, aren't you? Feeling the ground shift beneath you, the story you thought you knew slipping away like sand. I'm diving into the heart of this mystery now, and trust me, this plot twist is going to leave you reeling, desperate to know what's real and who's been pulling the strings all along. Stick with me, because everything's about to change." Marla's hands shook as she leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid the walls themselves were listening. "That letter you got, the one you lost, it wasn't about you, Sarah. It was about Lily." Sarah's breath caught, her mind stumbling over the words as Marla's eyes filled with a mix of guilt and fear. "I didn't tell you everything earlier because I wasn't sure, but I've been piecing things together. That note I got, the one I showed you, it wasn't the first. I've been getting them for weeks, all about a child, a secret, something hidden in this town. I thought it was about my past, my mistakes, but now I think it's about Lily. Someone believes she's not just your daughter, they think she's tied to something bigger, something this town's been hiding for years." Sarah's knees buckled, and she sank into a chair, the room spinning as Marla's words tore through her like shrapnel. Lily. The cryptic messages, the keychains, the threats, they weren't targeting Sarah's past with Daniel or Tom, but her 5-year-old daughter. The idea was unthinkable, a violation so profound it made her want to scream. Her thoughts raced back to the letter's words, "You're stronger than you know, but you're running out of time," and the note in her pocket, "She's closer than you think." Had she misread everything, assuming the danger was hers when it was Lily's all along? Marla's revelation was a bombshell, reframing every clue in a new, terrifying light. The keychains with Sarah's initials, the photo of Daniel, the texts threatening Lily's safety, what if they were pieces of a puzzle about Lily's origins, her place in a mystery Sarah didn't even know existed? "You're feeling that shock, I know you are, the way a single truth can flip a story on its head, making you question every detail you thought was certain." But Marla's story wasn't done, and the next piece she dropped only deepened the betrayal. Marla hesitated, her fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve as she continued, her voice thick with shame. "I didn't want to tell you this, Sarah, but I think Jake's involved. He's not who you think he is. I saw him a month ago, meeting with someone in the alley behind his coffee shop, someone who looked like trouble, all sharp suits and hushed voices. Jake was nervous, kept looking around like he didn't want to be seen. And then, a few days later, I got the first note. I didn't connect it at first, but now, with him gone and Lily missing, I can't shake the feeling he's part of this. He's been too close to you, too interested in Lily, and I don't trust him." Sarah's heart plummeted, Jake's kind face flashing in her mind, his warm smiles, the extra cookies for Lily, the way he'd asked if she felt safe. She'd trusted him, leaned on him as a rare steady presence in her chaotic life, but Marla's words painted him in a sinister new light. Was Jake's disappearance a sign he was running from his own secrets, or had he been silenced because he knew too much? The betrayal stung, but doubt crept in. Marla's story was compelling, but her nervous glances and sudden willingness to spill secrets felt staged, like she was steering Sarah toward Jake to protect herself. Sarah's paranoia surged, her trust in everyone crumbling. Was Marla the one meeting Jake in that alley, orchestrating this to deflect suspicion? Or was Jake truly a wolf in sheep's clothing, his kindness a mask for a hidden agenda? "You're wrestling with the same questions, aren't you?" Every character's motives are suspect now, and the mystery's core, Lily's connection to this town's secrets, is a puzzle that's only getting murkier. The twist about Lily wasn't just a shock, it was a gut punch that forced Sarah to rethink every clue she'd uncovered. She thought back to the keychains, those tiny bird charms with her initials scratched into them. She'd assumed they were about her, a taunt from her past, but what if they symbolized Lily, a child Sarah had always seen as her own but whose origins were now shrouded in doubt? Lily's father, Tom, had been distant even before he left, and Sarah had never questioned her daughter's place in her life, but Marla's words hinted at a hidden truth, a possibility that Lily was tied to the town's dark history, perhaps to the family Marla had mentioned, the one that vanished years ago under mysterious circumstances. The photo of Daniel, too, took on new meaning. Sarah had assumed it was planted to rattle her, but what if it was a clue about Daniel's role in Lily's story, a connection she'd never suspected? Her thoughts spiraled into darker territory. Had she overlooked something about Lily's birth, a detail buried in the chaos of her early years as a single mom? Sarah had assumed it was planted to rattle her, but what if it was a clue about Daniel's role in Lily's story, a connection she'd never suspected? Her thoughts spiraled into darker territory. Had she overlooked something about Lily's birth, a detail buried in the chaos of her early years as a single mom? The texts, the notes, the footsteps upstairs, they all pointed to a conspiracy that wasn't just about Sarah's mistakes but about Lily as a key to something larger, something this town had buried deep. Sarah's fear for her daughter mingled with a growing dread that she didn't know the whole truth about the child she'd raised, and that doubt was a knife twisting in her heart. You're feeling that emotional weight, I bet, the way fear and love can collide, making every decision feel like a gamble with impossible stakes. I'm keeping you in that raw, human space, because Sarah's fight is about to get even more desperate. As Sarah grappled with Marla's revelation, the creaking footsteps above grew louder, more deliberate, like someone pacing with purpose. Her eyes darted to the ceiling, her pulse racing as she realized she couldn't wait any longer. Lily was out there, possibly upstairs, and every second she hesitated was a second her daughter was in danger. But Marla grabbed her arm, her grip tight and her voice urgent. You can't go up there alone, Sarah. If Jake's involved, or if it's someone else, they're expecting you. Let me come with you. Sarah's instincts screamed to pull away. Marla's sudden bravery felt like another layer of deception, a way to keep tabs on her or worse, lead her into a trap. But she was out of options, and the thought of facing whatever was upstairs alone was too much. She nodded, grabbing the flashlight and a kitchen knife for protection, her hands trembling but her resolve hardening. As they crept toward the stairwell, the pink hair clip in Sarah's pocket felt like a lifeline, a reminder of why she couldn't give up. But just as they reached the stairs, a new sound shattered the silence, a sharp, guttural cry from the apartment above, cut off abruptly as if silenced by force. Sarah's blood ran cold, her mind flashing to Lily's face, her small voice calling for her. Was that her daughter? Or was it someone else, caught in the same web of secrets? Marla's face paled, but her eyes held a glint of something, determination, fear, or deceit that Sarah couldn't trust. The cry was a new clue, but it raised more questions than answers. Who was up there? What did they know about Lily? And why did it feel like the entire town was conspiring to keep Sarah from the truth? You're hooked. I know you are reeling from the twist, desperate to know what's waiting upstairs and whether Sarah's about to find Lily or walk into a nightmare. Keep watching, my friend, because the truth is closer than ever, but it's wrapped in a darkness that's going to test Sarah like never before. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she and Marla crept up the creaking stairwell, the guttural cry from the apartment above still ringing in her ears, a sound that could have been Lily's or someone else's but carried the weight of desperation either way. The flashlight in her hand cast jagged shadows on the peeling walls, the kitchen knife clutched in her other fist a cold reminder of the danger she was walking into. Marla's presence at her side felt like a double-edged sword. Her neighbor's insistence on coming along could be loyalty, but Sarah's gut screamed betrayal, especially after Marla's bombshell about Lily being the true target of the mysterious notes and threats. The pink hair clip in her pocket, the note that read "She's closer than you think," and the haunting possibility that Lily's very existence was tied to a secret this town had buried for years, it all swirled in Sarah's mind, fueling a mix of terror and resolve that pushed her forward despite the fear clawing at her. Every step up the stairs felt like a step toward a truth she wasn't sure she could handle, but the thought of her daughter, alone and scared, kept her moving. As they reached the door of the supposedly empty upstairs apartment, the air grew thick with tension, the silence more oppressive than any noise. Sarah's hand hovered over the doorknob, her breath shallow, when a faint whisper of voices from inside stopped her cold, multiple voices, low and urgent, plotting something she couldn't make out. "You're feeling it, aren't you?" The pulse-pounding urgency, the dread of what's behind that door, the sinking realization that this mystery is bigger, darker, and more dangerous than Sarah ever imagined. "I'm taking you to the climax now, where the conspiracy's true scale comes into focus, and a betrayal cuts deeper than Sarah could have feared. Hold on tight, because this story's about to explode with stakes that'll leave you breathless." Sarah pressed her ear to the door, the muffled voices growing clearer, though the words were still fragmented, something about the girl, too late, and keeping it quiet. Her blood ran cold. Were they talking about Lily? Her fingers tightened around the knife, her resolve hardening as she glanced at Marla, whose face was a mask of fear but whose eyes held that same unreadable glint Sarah couldn't trust. Before she could signal a plan, Marla pushed past her, shoving the door open with a force that caught Sarah off guard. The door swung wide, revealing a scene that turned Sarah's world upside down. Inside the dimly lit apartment, 3 figures stood around a cluttered table strewn with papers, photos, and Sarah's heart stopped. A small, familiar stuffed bunny, Lily's favorite, lying among the mess. Jake was there, his face grim, his hands gripping a stack of documents. Beside him stood Ethan, the delivery driver, his usual charm replaced by a cold intensity as he argued in hushed tones. But the third figure was the shock that hit Sarah like a freight train. It was Tom, her ex, the man who'd abandoned her and Lily years ago, his eyes sharp with a purpose she didn't recognize. The room fell silent as they noticed Sarah, their expressions a mix of surprise and something darker, guilt, maybe, or calculation. Marla, standing beside her, let out a soft gasp, but Sarah's focus was on Tom, whose presence shattered every assumption she'd clung to. "Sarah," he said, his voice calm but laced with an edge that made her skin crawl, "you shouldn't be here." The betrayal was a knife to her gut, not just Tom's reappearance, but Jake and Ethan's involvement, 2 people she trusted, now standing in a room that screamed conspiracy. "You're reeling, I know you are. Everyone Sarah relied on is part of this, and the scale of what's unfolding is bigger than you ever guessed. But it's about to get worse, and the truth is going to hit like a storm." Sarah's voice trembled with rage and fear as she stepped into the room, the knife raised, her eyes darting between the 3 men and the bunny on the table. "Where's Lily?" she demanded, her voice cracking but fierce, the mother's instinct to protect her daughter overriding the shock of seeing Tom. Jake stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace, but his eyes were haunted, like a man carrying a weight too heavy to bear. "She's safe, Sarah, I swear," he said, but the words felt hollow, especially as Ethan shot him a sharp glance, as if warning him to stay quiet. Tom, though, remained unnervingly calm, his gaze locked on Sarah with an intensity that made her feel exposed. Tom's eyes narrowed at Marla, a flash of anger breaking his calm facade, and in that moment, Sarah saw the truth. Marla wasn't just a bystander, she was a player in this game, and her role was about to change everything. "You want the truth?" Tom said, his voice low and dangerous. "Fine. Lily's not just your daughter, Sarah. She's the key to a secret this town's been guarding since before you got here, a secret about money, power, and a deal that went wrong years ago. The family that disappeared. They didn't vanish. They were erased, and the people who did it are still here, still watching. Lily's connected to them, and someone thinks she's the leverage they need to keep the truth buried." Sarah's legs nearly gave out, the weight of his words crushing her. Lily, her 5-year-old daughter, a pawn in a decades-old conspiracy. It was unthinkable, yet the pieces, Marla's note, the keychains, the threats suddenly clicked into a terrifying picture. But before Sarah could process it, Ethan lunged forward, slamming his hand on the table. "You're saying too much, Tom," he snapped, his eyes darting to the door as if expecting someone else to burst in. Jake, meanwhile, looked torn, his gaze flickering between Sarah and the bunny, his hands clenched like he was wrestling with a decision. Sarah's paranoia surged. Were they all in on it, working together to manipulate her? Or were they fractured, each with their own agenda, caught in a web none of them could escape. The stuffed bunny on the table felt like a taunt, proof that Lily was close but still out of reach. You're right there with Sarah, your heart racing, your mind spinning with questions about who's telling the truth and what this conspiracy really means. The room erupted into chaos as Sarah's emotions boiled over, her voice rising in a desperate plea. Tell me where Lily is, or I swear I'll tear this place apart. The knife in her hand gleamed under the dim light, her fear for her daughter drowning out the betrayal and confusion. But before anyone could respond, a loud crash came from the back of the apartment, followed by the sound of shattering glass. Everyone froze, the air thick with dread. Jake cursed under his breath, grabbing a flashlight from the table, while Ethan moved toward the door, his movements tense, like a predator ready to strike. Tom, though, stayed rooted, his eyes locked on Sarah with a chilling certainty. They're here, he said, his voice barely audible. The people who want this secret buried, they know you're close, Sarah. And they'll do anything to stop you. Sarah's stomach dropped, the realization hitting her that the conspiracy wasn't just about Tom, Jake, Ethan, or even Marla. It was a network, a shadow cast over the entire town, with roots deep enough to reach her daughter. Marla grabbed Sarah's arm, her grip tight, but her words were a hiss. We need to move, now. But as they turned to flee, Sarah caught a glimpse of something on the table among the papers, a faded photograph, not of Daniel, but of a woman who looked eerily like Sarah, holding a baby. Her heart stopped. Was that her? Lily? Or someone else, tied to the secret Tom had hinted at? The crash from the back grew louder, footsteps thundering closer, and Sarah realized the danger wasn't just coming, it was already here, and the truth about Lily was slipping through her fingers. You're hooked. I can feel it, the conspiracy's scale, the betrayal, the race against time. Keep watching, my friend, because Sarah's about to confront a truth that could save Lily or destroy them both. The crash of shattering glass echoed through the upstairs apartment, a violent punctuation to Tom's chilling warning that the people behind the town's dark secret were closing in, their footsteps thundering closer as Sarah's world teetered on the edge of collapse. Her eyes locked on the faded photograph on the table, a woman who looked like her, holding a baby, its implications a riddle she couldn't unravel amidst the chaos. Lily's stuffed bunny lay among the scattered papers, a heartbreaking reminder of her daughter's absence, while Jake, Ethan, and Tom stood frozen, their faces a mix of fear and defiance. Marla's grip on Sarah's arm tightened, her whispered urgency to flee drowned out by the pounding in Sarah's chest. The conspiracy Marla had revealed that Lily was the key to a decades-old secret tied to a family erased from the town's history had shattered Sarah's understanding of her life, but the presence of Tom, her ex, alongside Jake and Ethan, men she trusted, was a betrayal that cut deeper than any threat. The knife in her hand trembled, not from fear but from a mother's rage, a fire that burned through the paranoia and doubt that had plagued her. As the footsteps grew louder, a shadowy figure emerged from the back of the apartment, and Sarah realized this was it, the moment where every clue, every note, every haunting question would collide in a battle for the truth. You're right there with her, aren't you? Heart pounding, breath shallow, desperate to know who's behind this and whether Sarah can save Lily before it's too late. I'm plunging you into the climax now, where the mystery unravels in a storm of tension and betrayal, with a final twist that'll hit you like a thunderbolt. Hold on, because this is going to be a ride you won't forget. The figure stepping into the dim light wasn't a stranger, it was Daniel, the man from Sarah's past, his face older but unmistakable, his eyes glinting with a cold determination that sent a shiver down her spine. The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with the weight of his presence, as if he'd been the shadow behind every note, every threat, every moment of dread. Sarah's grip on the knife tightened, her voice a raw growl as she demanded, "Where's Lily?" Daniel's lips curled into a smile that was both familiar and terrifying, a predator sizing up his prey. "She's safe, for now," he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "But you've been asking the wrong questions, Sarah. This was never about you, it was about what you brought into this town." His words echoed Marla's revelation about Lily, but Daniel's tone carried a deeper truth, one that made Sarah's blood run cold. He stepped closer, ignoring the knife, his gaze flicking to Tom, Jake, and Ethan, who stood rigid, their silence deafening. "You thought you could run from me," Daniel continued, "but you carried the key to everything right into their hands." Sarah's mind raced, the photograph flashing in her memory, the woman, the baby, the town's buried secret. Was Lily not just her daughter but a link to the vanished family, a truth Daniel had been chasing all these years? The realization hit her like a wave, but before she could speak, Jake lunged forward, his flashlight raised like a weapon. "Enough, Daniel," he snapped, his voice shaking with a mix of guilt and defiance. "She deserves the truth." The room erupted into chaos, Ethan grabbing Jake to hold him back, Tom shouting for everyone to stop, and Marla pulling Sarah toward the door, her whispers frantic. "You're feeling the intensity, the betrayal, the desperate need to understand what Daniel knows and why Lily's at the heart of it all. But the truth is about to cut deeper, and the battle is just beginning." Daniel's smile didn't waver as he raised a hand, silencing the room with an authority that chilled Sarah to her core. "The truth," he said, his eyes locked on her. "The truth is, Sarah, you were never just a bystander. That family, the one this town erased, they were mine. My parents, my sister, taken because they knew too much about the money this town's elite were hiding. And Lily, she's not just your daughter, she's my niece, the last piece of my family, the proof they thought they'd buried." Sarah's world tilted, the knife slipping in her hand as Daniel's words rewrote everything. Lily, his niece. The implication was a gut punch. Tom wasn't Lily's father, and Sarah's fling with Daniel years ago had produced more than heartbreak. It had created Lily, a child tied to a conspiracy of greed and murder. The keychains, the notes, the threats, they weren't about Sarah's past mistakes but about protecting a secret worth killing for. Sarah's eyes darted to Tom, whose face was ashen, his silence confirming he'd known more than he'd let on. Jake's struggle against Ethan's grip faltered, his eyes filled with regret, while Marla's frantic tugging stopped, her expression unreadable. "I tried to protect you," Tom said finally, his voice breaking. "I left because I found out what you didn't know about Lily, about Daniel. I thought I could keep you both safe." The betrayal was a fresh wound, but Sarah had no time to process it as Daniel stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "The people who killed my family want Lily gone, Sarah. They've been watching you, using you to get to her. And now, you've led them right to us. You're reeling. I know the truth about Lily, the scale of the conspiracy, the betrayal of everyone Sarah trusted. But the real fight is about to begin, and it's going to test Sarah's strength like never before." The back door of the apartment burst open, and two men in dark coats stormed in, their faces obscured but their intent clear: violence. Sarah's heart stopped as she realized Daniel wasn't the mastermind, he was a pawn, just like her, caught in a larger game orchestrated by the town's hidden elite. The men moved with precision, one grabbing Ethan, who fought back with a ferocity that suggested he'd been playing both sides, while the other advanced on Sarah, his hand reaching for something in his coat. Time slowed, her instincts kicking in as she swung the knife, catching the man's arm and sending him staggering back. Jake broke free, tackling the second man, while Daniel shouted for Sarah to run, his voice laced with a desperation that hinted he wasn't entirely the villain she'd thought. Marla, though, was nowhere to be seen, her absence a glaring red flag that screamed complicity. Sarah's eyes locked on Lily's bunny, still on the table, and she dove for it, clutching it as she sprinted for the door, the chaos behind her a blur of shouts and crashes. Her mind was a storm of emotions: fear for Lily, rage at the betrayal, and a crushing guilt that she'd brought this danger to her daughter. The photograph, the keychains, the notes, they all pointed to a truth she'd been too blind to see. Lily was the key to exposing a conspiracy that had destroyed lives, and the people behind it would stop at nothing to silence her. As Sarah stumbled into the stairwell, the sound of a child's cry, Lily's cry, pierced the air from somewhere below, pulling her forward like a lifeline. "You're right there with her, your pulse racing, your heart breaking for a mother fighting against impossible odds. But the final twist is coming, and it's going to change everything you thought you knew." Sarah raced down the stairs, the bunny clutched to her chest, Lily's cry echoing in her ears as the sounds of the fight upstairs faded. She burst into her own apartment, following the sound to Lily's room, where she found her daughter curled up in the closet, tears streaming down her face but unharmed. Relief flooded Sarah, but it was short-lived as she heard footsteps behind her. She spun, knife raised, expecting Daniel or one of the men in coats, but it was Marla, her face streaked with tears, a gun in her trembling hand. "I'm sorry, Sarah," Marla whispered, her voice breaking. "I tried to stop this, but I'm in too deep. They made me watch you, report on you. They've got my son." The final twist hit Sarah like a lightning bolt. Marla wasn't just a neighbor or a pawn, she was a traitor, coerced by the same forces that had killed Daniel's family, her loyalty torn between her own child and Sarah's. The gun shook in Marla's hand, her eyes pleading for forgiveness even as she raised it. Sarah's heart pounded, her arms wrapping protectively around Lily, the knife her only defense against a woman she'd once trusted. The conspiracy was a hydra, its heads everywhere: Tom, Jake, Ethan, Daniel, Marla, all caught in a web of greed and fear, with Lily at its center. As Marla's finger tightened on the trigger, a gunshot rang out from the stairwell, and her body crumpled, a look of shock frozen on her face. Sarah's breath caught, her eyes darting to the doorway, where a new figure stood, cloaked in shadow, their identity obscured but their presence a chilling promise of more secrets to come. Who was this? The true mastermind, or another pawn in the game? You're on the edge of your seat. I can feel it, the climax's intensity, the emotional weight, the twist that leaves you questioning everything. Keep watching, my friend, because Sarah's fight for Lily is far from over, and the truth is still out there, waiting in the dark. Sarah's arms tightened around Lily, her daughter's small body trembling in the closet as the gunshot's echo faded. Marla's crumpled form on the floor, a stark reminder of the conspiracy's brutal reach. The shadowy figure in the doorway stood motionless, their silhouette framed by the dim light from the stairwell, the gun in their hand still smoking from the shot that had ended Marla's betrayal. Sarah's breath caught, her heart a frantic drumbeat as she shielded Lily, the kitchen knife in her hand a feeble defense against this new, unknown threat. The climax of her fight, through the notes, the keychains, the revelations about Lily's connection to a town's buried secret, had brought her to this moment, where every question seemed to converge on the figure before her. Was this the mastermind behind the conspiracy, the one who'd orchestrated the threats, the disappearances, the web of deceit that had ensnared Tom, Jake, Ethan, Daniel, and Marla? Or was it someone else, a final player in a game Sarah had only begun to understand? Lily's soft whimpers grounded her, a reminder of why she'd fought so hard, and as the figure stepped forward, their face slowly coming into view, Sarah braced herself for a truth that could either save her or shatter her forever. "You're right there with her, aren't you?" Feeling the weight of this moment, the desperate need for answers, the hope that Sarah and Lily can find peace after so much pain. "I'm bringing you to the resolution now, where the mysteries unravel, the wounds begin to heal, and a lingering twist leaves you with something to carry long after the video ends. Stay with me, because this story's final chapter is going to hit you right in the heart." The figure stepped into the light, and Sarah's breath hitched. It was Jake, his face etched with exhaustion and sorrow, the gun trembling in his hand as he lowered it. "It's over, Sarah," he said, his voice raw, barely holding together under the weight of what he'd done. "Marla was going to kill you. I couldn't let that happen." Sarah's mind reeled, the betrayal and trust she'd felt for Jake colliding in a storm of confusion. He'd been part of the conspiracy, standing with Tom and Ethan in that upstairs room, but now he stood before her, having saved her from Marla's coerced treachery. Before she could speak, Jake knelt beside Marla's body, his eyes glistening with tears. "She wasn't lying about her son," he said. "The people behind this, they've got everyone trapped. I was trying to protect you, Sarah, but I got in too deep." His words unraveled the final threads of the mystery. The town's elite, a shadowy group tied to the vanished family, had built their wealth on illegal deals, and when Daniel's family threatened to expose them years ago, they were eliminated. Lily, revealed as Daniel's niece, was the last living proof of their crimes, her existence a threat they'd tracked since Sarah arrived in town. Jake had been coerced into watching Sarah, feeding information to the conspirators, but his guilt had driven him to rebel, culminating in the shot that saved her life. Tom, it turned out, had known about Lily's true parentage and left to protect them, while Ethan had been a double agent, playing both sides until the conspirators caught up with him upstairs. Daniel, consumed by his quest for justice, had been a pawn, his rage manipulated by the same forces that had destroyed his family. Sarah's heart ached as she processed the truth, the keychains and notes now clear as desperate attempts by Daniel to reach Lily before it was too late. "You're feeling the emotional weight of this. I know, the way truth can be both a release and a burden, tying every clue into a tapestry of loss and redemption." Sarah held Lily close, her daughter's warmth a lifeline as Jake explained the rest. The conspirators' network was crumbling. The gunfire upstairs had been the police, tipped off by Jake before he'd returned to save Sarah, storming the apartment to apprehend the men in dark coats and Ethan, who'd survived the fight but was now in custody. The photograph Sarah had seen, of a woman holding a baby, was Daniel's sister, Lily's mother, who'd died in the purge of their family, leaving Lily in Sarah's care through a twist of fate Sarah hadn't understood until now. The realization that she wasn't Lily's biological mother was a quiet devastation, but as Lily clung to her, whispering "Mommy," Sarah knew their bond was unbreakable, forged in love rather than blood. The police found Daniel's body among the chaos upstairs, his quest for vengeance ended by the very conspirators he'd sought to expose, a tragic figure whose pain had fueled the mystery. As the authorities cleared the scene, Sarah learned the town's elite were being investigated, their secrets spilling out like poison from a wound. The keychains, etched with Sarah's initials, had been Daniel's way of marking Lily as his family, a clue she'd misinterpreted as a threat. The notes, the threats, the pink hair clip, they were all pieces of a desperate plan to protect Lily, twisted by the conspirators' interference. Sarah's paranoia, her fear, her relentless fight, it had all led her to this moment, where she stood with Lily, safe but forever changed. You're right there with her, feeling the relief of answers, the ache of loss, the strength it took to survive. But I'm not done yet, because there's one last twist to leave you thinking, to make this story linger in your heart. As Sarah and Lily left the apartment, guided by police to a waiting ambulance, the rain had stopped, the night air crisp and clear, a stark contrast to the storm that had defined their ordeal. Jake, handcuffed but allowed a moment to speak, approached Sarah, his eyes heavy with remorse. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything. But there's one thing I didn't tell you, something Daniel left for Lily." He slipped a small envelope into her hand, its edges worn, and Sarah's heart skipped as she opened it later, in the quiet of a hospital room where Lily slept beside her. Inside was a letter from Daniel, written in the same sharp handwriting as the notes, but softer, filled with love for the niece he'd never known. "She's the light we lost," he wrote, "and she'll carry our truth forward. Keep her safe, Sarah, because they'll never stop watching." The words sent a chill through her, a reminder that while the conspirators were exposed, their influence might linger, a shadow that could resurface. Sarah tucked the letter away, her resolve hardening. She'd move away, start fresh, protect Lily from a world that had tried to claim her. But as she looked at her daughter, peaceful in sleep, a final, open-ended twist planted itself in her mind, a faint memory of Marla's words about her son, still out there, still held by those who'd coerced her. Were there others, hidden in the town's corners, waiting to rebuild what Sarah had torn down? The question hung in the air, unanswered, a whisper of mystery that left Sarah and you wondering if the fight was truly over. You're feeling it, I bet, the closure of a mother's victory, the love that triumphed, but also the eerie sense that some shadows never fade. This story's end is a beginning, a call to reflect on your own strength, your own battles, and the truths you carry. Thank you for staying with me, my friend. This journey's left its mark, and I hope it's one you'll carry too.